It's 3 a.m. The power has been out for 12 hours. The temperature outside has dropped below freezing, and the house is getting colder by the minute. You're sitting in the dark. Your phone has no signal. The battery is about to die. The food in the fridge is starting to spoil, and the nearest help, you don't even know where it is. At that moment, a voice inside you says, "I was prepared for this." Or were you? There's a bag in the garage. There's something inside it. You don't quite remember what it is. When was the last time you checked? A year ago? 2 years ago? You open the bag. There's a flashlight, but the batteries are dead. There's a lighter you saw on Instagram and thought was cool, but it's out of gas. It says emergency blanket, but it's just a thin piece of foil. There are canned goods, but no can opener. And in that moment, you realize all that feeling of being prepared, all that sense of security, it was an illusion.
But this person was prepared. They had a generator, they had supplies.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. The survival industry sold you a lie, a big, expensive, flashy lie. Buy this, buy that, buy a 50-piece kit, buy a tactical bag, buy everything just in case. You did, and now you have a 70-pound bag sitting in your garage. You don't even remember what's inside. When was the last time you used it? You don't remember. Does it work? You haven't tested it. Let me tell you this, that bag won't save you. The false sense of security you bought along with that bag is perhaps the most dangerous thing. Because in a real crisis, can you carry that 70-pound bag on your back and walk 3 kilometers? Can you climb a steep slope? Can you run when you need to escape? Your knees will buckle, your back will ache, you'll sweat, you'll get tired, and halfway there, you'll drop that bag. Then what's left? Nothing. What if I told you the truth? The truth is, you don't need a 50-piece kit to survive. You don't need a 70-kilogram backpack. You don't need tactical-looking, expensive, complicated gear. You only need 7 things. Yes, 7. You heard right. But these 7 things aren't just randomly chosen. Each one follows a rule. I call it the Multiplier Rule.
The Multiplier Rule? What does that mean?
Simple. If something goes in your gear bag, it should serve at least 3 different purposes. Gear that only serves one purpose is a luxury. There's no room for luxury in a crisis. Think about it. A lemon grater only grates lemons, but a good knife, you can prepare food, cut wood, cut rope, set traps, defend yourself. 1 tool, 5 functions. That's the multiplier effect. And the 7 tools I'm going to show you today follow this rule to the letter. Some are so boring that survivalists don't even put them in their videos because they're not as sexy as black, tactical-looking sponsored products. But remember, sexy won't keep you alive. Useful will.
So why aren't these 7 tools selling? Why is everyone pushing those 70-pound backpacks?
Because if they sell you something that works once, you won't come back. But if they sell you things that break every year, go out of style, need to be replaced, you'll be a customer forever. This is a huge industry, and like any industry, its priority isn't your life, it's its own profit. That's why you need to shift your focus from the cool items on Instagram to simple but functional items. Now let's look at that blacklist. We'll start with the first tool. The first tool, fire. Fire is everything. It warms you, purifies your water, cooks your food, keeps wild animals away, and perhaps most importantly, keeps you alive in the dark. When you see fire burning, something inside you says, okay, I'm in control. But how will you light the fire?
A lighter? Matches? Plus they're everywhere, cheap, practical.
Great. Now consider this scenario. It's midnight. It's been raining for 6 hours. Everything is soaking wet. Your fingers are frozen like sausages. You're shivering, and your sleeping bag alone is insufficient to protect you from the cold. You take out that plastic lighter. It's out of gas. You look at the matches. They're wet. You try that tactical lighter. It goes out in the wind. And there you are, in the dark, standing there with useless plastic pieces in your hands.
So what should we use?
A ferro rod. Ferro rod. This thing produces sparks at 3,000 degrees. It works in the rain, it works in the snow, it works in the wind. You drop it in water and it still works. You can start a fire 15,000 times with a single rod. That's 40 years, even if you use it every day. And it's nothing like those ridiculous things, those tiny, useless ferro rod pieces attached to the end of a survival bracelet, or cheap imitations that crumble after 5 uses. A real, high-quality ferro rod, at least 12-15 centimeters long. Now here's a question for you. What's in your bag? That plastic lighter or something that will actually save you? Write in the comments. I'm curious. Second tool, Water purification. Dehydration kills you in 3 days, but the real danger is something else entirely. Dehydration takes 3 days to kill you. How long does it take to die from dirty water? More importantly, how does dirty water kill you? Much faster and much more painfully.
But in an emergency, if you have no choice and have to drink from a stream, could it really be that risky?
It could be. That clear-looking creek water could be filled with millions of bacteria, parasites, and viruses you can't see. Giardia, Cryptosporidium, E. coli. These names might not mean anything to you now, but when you're doubled over with stomach pain, running to the bushes every 10 minutes, losing all the fluid in your body, you'll know them very well. And the worst part? When vomiting and diarrhea start, your fluid loss is much greater than normal. You drank to find water, but the water you drank left you even more dehydrated. It's a vicious cycle.
So what about those survival straws? They're sold everywhere. Small, lightweight, and practical looking.
Oh yes, Life Straw style straws, the darlings of the industry, advertised with images of people happily dipping their straws into a stream or a bottle of dirty water and drinking happily. Do you know what happens in the real world? That straw gets clogged. Murky water, algae, sediment. After a few uses, the flow slows. You need to clean it, but you don't know how. In cold weather, it freezes. The filter inside cracks, and it no longer filters anything, but you don't realize it. And the most critical issue? That straw only works for drinking. You want to cook rice, pasta, soup. You need boiling water for these. You can't fill a pot of water from the straw. Even if you did, that water is still dirty. The straw only filters when it sucks. You want to wash a wound. You can't wash a wound with the straw. You want to make a hot water bottle to warm up. The straw doesn't provide that. So what's the real solution? A stainless steel bottle. It's that simple.
Wait, what about a plastic bottle? It's lighter and easier to find.
No, because you can't put a plastic bottle on a fire, but you can put stainless steel on a fire. You boil the water, keep it at 100 degrees for 1 minute, and everything inside dies. Bacteria, parasites, viruses, everything. No filter gives such definitive results. And think about it. The same bottle carries water, boils water, cooks soup, and warms your sleeping bag as a hot water bottle. One piece of equipment, 4 functions. The multiplier effect.
What if you don't have a fire to boil water?
Then carry water purification tablets as a backup. Small, light, cheap. Keep iodine or chlorine dioxide-based ones in your emergency kit. They taste awful like pool water, but they'll keep you alive. Let's rewind a bit. 2010, Haiti earthquake. 230,000 people died, but the real tragedy began after the earthquake. Clean water sources had been destroyed. People drank whatever they could find to survive. Dirty water, stagnant water, water mixed with sewage. The result? A cholera outbreak. Over 10,000 people who survived the earthquake died because of the water they drank. They found water but couldn't purify it. A stainless steel bottle and a simple fire. That was enough to save them. Now I ask you, how many liters of clean water do you have stored at home? And when that water runs out, do you have the equipment to purify a contaminated source? Third tool? Tarpaulin. Yes, tarpaulin. That boring, unsexy, rectangular piece of fabric that no one posts on Instagram.
Isn't a tent more practical?
Tents look great. They look great in ads, showrooms, YouTube videos, but in the real world, a tent is a trap. First, the weight. An average tent weighs 3 to 4 pounds. A tarp weighs 500 grams. Trust me, in a chaotic moment, you don't want to be burdened with a 3 to 4 pound single function item. A tent is just a tent. You sleep in it, that's it. If any of the poles break, it's just an expensive pile of nylon. Zipper broken? You're an insect buffet. But a tarp? A tarp is a magician. That flat piece of fabric becomes an A-frame shelter. It becomes a windbreak. It becomes a rain collector. Lower the corners, put a container in the middle, and you have clean water in the morning. Spread it on the ground and it becomes a moisture barrier. Cover it and it becomes camouflage. Want protection from the sun? Shade. Need to carry an injured person? A stretcher. A single tarp gives you at least 10 different uses, and all of them are vital. The important thing is to choose the right tarp, not the blue plastic things you find at hardware stores. Ripstop nylon or sil nylon, minimum 3 by 3 meters, and neutral color. Avoid bright and light colors to avoid being seen in the dark.
Isn't it difficult to set up? At least a tent is simple.
Yes, you need to learn how to set it up, but that's not a disadvantage. That's the subject of our 7th tool. We'll get to that in a moment. 4th tool, knife. What comes to mind when I say knife? That sword-sized thing Rambo carries, or that tiny curved blade on the tip of a pocket knife? Both are wrong.
What about a pocket knife? It has a blade, scissors, and a screwdriver. It's multifunctional.
Multifunctional, yes, but it's not good at any function. The pocket knife's blade breaks when you try to cut wood. The hinge loosens, the lock fails, and at the worst possible moment, you're left with a useless pile of metal in your hand. You need a single knife, a full-tang fixed blade, 10 to 12 centimeters long, carbon or stainless steel.
What does full-tang mean?
It means the metal part of the knife continues in one piece all the way to the end of the handle. Not glued, not screwed on, one piece of steel. You can use this knife like a hammer, split wood, make a lever, it won't break. And what does this one knife do? It cuts wood, prepares kindling for a fire, chops food, cuts rope, sets traps, skins animals, builds shelters, and defends you. You can even start a fire with it and a ferro rod.
So why is everyone selling those knife collections? I keep seeing sets of 5 or 10.
Because selling 5 is more profitable than selling 1. But think, will you carry 5 knives in a crisis? Will you be able to decide which one to use? Under stress, in the dark, with your hands shaking, one knife. Know it, use it. Knowing it is more valuable than owning 5 knives. Now think, how many knives do you have in your bag? And which one do you really trust? 5th tool, first aid kit. That ready-made kit you bought online will most likely kill you. What's inside? 20 alcohol wipes, 5 band-aids, maybe a plastic tweezers, and a piece of paper called a first aid guide that you'll never read. Serious bleeding? No tourniquet. Risk of infection? No antibiotics. Is there pain? No medicine.
Hold on a second. You said antibiotics, but you can't get antibiotics without a prescription, and misuse is dangerous. Is it right to recommend this?
You're right, I need to stop and correct myself here. Antibiotics are prescription drugs and should not be used indiscriminately. The wrong antibiotic can lead to resistant bacteria, and that's a serious issue. But I also have to say this. In a real crisis scenario where hospitals aren't functioning and pharmacies are closed, a simple cut and infection can be deadly. Throughout history, people have died from minor cuts and infections.
So what should we do then?
First, talk to a doctor now. Ask if they can prescribe antibiotics for travel or emergencies. Second, learn about wound care, cleanliness, bandaging, recognizing signs of infection. Most infections can be prevented with proper wound care. The real issue is this. Ready-made kits don't even prompt this conversation. They just say, take this, feel safe, and you think you're really prepared. So what should a real first aid kit look like? Priority order, bleeding control, because you can die within minutes from severe bleeding. Infection takes days, dehydration takes days, but blood loss? Minutes. Pressure emergency bandage or hemostatic gauze. These stop severe bleeding. Tourniquet to stop arterial bleeding in an arm or leg. CAT or SOFT brands, not cheap knockoffs, the real ones.
Isn't a tourniquet dangerous? If you use it wrong, won't it lead to limb loss?
That's an old myth. Modern medicine says a properly applied tourniquet can be left on safely for up to 2 hours. And think about this, limb loss or life loss. The choice is that simple. Of course, you need to learn how to use it correctly, but that's the subject of our 7th tool. Now, here's a true story. 2013, the Boston Marathon bombing. Dozens of people were seriously injured in the explosion. Legs, arms, severe arterial bleeding. The first responders were ordinary people, runners, spectators, volunteers. And what saved lives that day? Improvised tourniquets, belts, t-shirts, whatever they could find. They kept people alive until the professional teams arrived. Now think, if you were in that crowd and someone next to you was bleeding, what would you do? Would you use the bandage from your first aid kit? Also, keep this in mind. First aid isn't just useful in major crises, it's quite handy in everyday life too. However, since such situations aren't encountered often, it's constantly overlooked. Take this topic seriously. And if you know anything about it, write it in the comments. Let's learn together. 6th tool, headlamp. Yes, headlamp, that boring thing that climbers wear, which doesn't look cool at all.
But isn't a flashlight more practical? It's both more powerful and more tactical. The boxes say 5,000 lumens, 1 kilometer range, and so on.
5,000 lumens. Sounds impressive, doesn't it? Now let me tell you what those 5,000 lumens actually mean. First, it ruins your night vision. The moment you turn on such a bright light, your eyes can't adapt to the dark for 15-20 minutes. Once you turn off the flashlight, you're practically blind. Second, it drains the battery in 90 minutes. 90 minutes! Then you're left with an expensive metal rod. Third, and most importantly, it constantly occupies one of your hands. When cooking, setting up shelter, tying rope, bandaging a wound, you need both hands. The hand holding the flashlight is the hand that can't work.
You hold it with your mouth?
Yes, it's a great method for dentistry or tactical infections. A headlamp solves all these problems. It shines where you turn your head. Both hands are free. 200 lumens is more than enough for most tasks, and a decent headlamp runs for 40 to 50 hours on low mode. Also, get one with a red light mode. Red light doesn't impair night vision. It's perfect for looking at a map in the dark or searching for something in your bag. Petzl, Black Diamond, these are brands that know what they're doing. $40 to $60, the price of a dinner, but the value of your hands working in the dark, priceless. The seventh tool, knowledge. And now I'm going to tell you the hardest truth. This is more important than everything I've talked about throughout this video. Are you ready? That ferro rod, that stainless steel bottle, that tarp, that knife, that first aid kit, that headlamp, none of them are useful, completely, if you don't know how to use them.
But aren't they simple to use? You strike the ferro rod to start a fire, you cut with the knife, you spread the tarp.
Really? Then imagine this. It's midnight. The temperature is below freezing. It's been raining for hours, and everything is soaking wet. Your hands are shaking. Your fingers are numb. You can't even feel them. You're alone in the dark, and a voice inside you says, I have to start a fire, or I'll freeze. You take out the ferro rod. It's wet, but it works, right? You start striking it. Sparks fly, but nothing catches. You try again. Still nothing. Wet leaves, wet branches, everything is wet. And in that moment, you realize you don't know what a dry tinder is. You don't know why birch bark works. You don't know which materials burn even when wet. You don't know that the inside of resinous pine branches can still be dry, that dry material can be found under rotten logs, that you can even pull cotton out of the lining of your own jacket. You don't know any of it. Your hands are now shaking uncontrollably. Your body temperature is dropping. Your mind is starting to fog up. Your thoughts are slowing down. I should rest a bit crosses your mind. This thought is the first sign of hypothermia, and you're not even aware of it. You have a ferro rod that can start a fire 15,000 times, but you can't even start one.
Is this really happening? Do people really die like this?
Every year, all over the world, mountaineers, campers, lost hikers, they have all kinds of equipment in their backpacks, expensive Gore-Tex jackets, state-of-the-art sleeping bags, GPS devices, emergency kits, but they can't use any of it, or they use it wrong. They have tarps, but don't know how to set them up against the wind. They have water filters, but don't know what to do when they freeze. They have first aid kits, but don't know where to apply a tourniquet to a leg, or how tightly. Because buying gear is easy. 2 clicks on Amazon and it's delivered to your door. You open the box, put it in your bag, and feel safe. But this is a false sense of security, an illusion. And illusions vanish like smoke in a crisis. Skills aren't bought. Skills are earned through repetition, failure after failure, practice after practice. They aren't gained without getting your hands dirty, sweating, or experiencing disappointment. Now I'm going to ask you a question, and be honest. How many times have you actually used that ferro rod? How many times have you lit a fire in the rain, in the cold, under stress? Have you tried setting up that tarp in a storm? Have you practiced applying that tourniquet to a leg? Never? Then that ferro rod isn't a survival tool. It's just a piece of metal. And that bag isn't a survival kit. It's just an expensive collection.
So where do you start? It seems impossible to learn everything at once.
You're right. And here's another truth the survival industry doesn't tell you. You don't need to know everything. It's enough to really know a few basic skills. The order of priority is as follows. First, fire. Being able to build a fire in different conditions with different materials. Anyone can build a fire in dry weather. You need to be able to build one in wet weather, in the cold, shaking, under stress. The only way to learn this is through practice, in your backyard, in all weather conditions, in all seasons. Second, shelter. You should be able to set up your tarp in at least 3 different ways: A-frame, lean-to, windbreak. You should know when to use which one, and you should be able to set it up in the dark, in the rain, with shaky hands. Again, practice. Practice over and over. Third, water. Boiling, filtering, purification tablets. You need to know the advantages and disadvantages of each and when to use which. And most importantly, you need to be able to read water sources, which water is relatively safe, which to avoid.
Should you take a course to learn these things? Should I read a book?
Both help, but neither replaces practice. You can read about starting a fire in a book. You can watch it on YouTube. But until your hands learn to direct the spark, until your body develops that muscle memory, you don't really know. Do this. This weekend, go outside, take your ferro rod, find some dry grass, start a fire, then put it out, start it again. Then wet the materials a little, try again, fail, get frustrated, try again, until you can do it without thinking. Is this boring? Yes. Glamorous? No. Something to share on Instagram? Absolutely not. But this is what will keep you alive. Not that ferro rod that never left the box, not that unused tarp. Your hands, your knowledge, your experience.
What if things go wrong even if you do everything right?
They can, and they will. No preparation is 100% guarantee, but the difference between a prepared person and an unprepared person becomes apparent when things go wrong. The unprepared person panics, freezes, or worse, makes the wrong decisions. The prepared person adapts, thinks of alternatives because they know the fundamentals. And when you know the fundamentals, you can improvise.
Now we come to the most important story in this video. The year was 2007, Northern California. A man named James Kim was returning from Thanksgiving vacation with his wife and 2 young children. Their GPS told them it would take them the shortest route, a road through a wooded, mountainous area. It started snowing. The road was blocked. The car got stuck.
Wait, was this guy unprepared and experienced?
James Kim was a technology editor. He was smart, educated, successful. He had an emergency kit in his car. He had food. He had blankets. He did everything he could to protect his family. They kept warm by burning the car tires. His wife and children stayed in the car. But on the 7th day, James made a decision. He would walk to call for help. Snow, cold, rough terrain, but he wanted to save his family, and that's where everything came together. When James started walking toward the center of the storm, he thought there was a town about 16 kilometers away. He had misread the map. The actual distance was much greater, and the direction he was heading led him to cliffs, frozen rivers, and impassable terrain. 3 days later, rescue teams found James's body. He had frozen to death from hypothermia. He had a lighter in his pocket and food in his bag, but exhausted and disoriented in the snowstorm, he had been unable to use any of it.
What about his family?
His wife and 2 children were rescued, safe and sound, because they stayed in the car. They didn't move, they waited. It wasn't the cold that killed James. It wasn't a lack of equipment. What killed him was a wrong decision, a decision made under stress, in a panic, in the rush to save his family. And this decision stemmed from a lack of knowledge. He didn't know how to read a map. He didn't know how much energy walking in a snowstorm would consume. He didn't know that hypothermia weakens decision-making ability. He didn't know that sometimes the best decision is inaction. Why did I tell this story? Because throughout this video, I showed you 7 tools. And you might be thinking now, okay, I'll get these, put them in my bag, and be prepared. No, you won't. Getting that equipment isn't even the first step. The first step is the one you'll take right now after watching this video. And that step will teach you how to survive with just 7 pounds of tools, without needing a 70-pound cool gear bag. Now I'll tell you one last thing. You're watching this video in your cozy chair in your warm room. It's a normal, maybe even ordinary day. But one day, it won't be a normal day. The power will go out. The taps won't run. Your phone won't work. And at that moment, you'll try to remember what you learned today.
So is watching this video enough?
No. Watching this video is like looking at the cover of a book. Real learning begins after you close this video. It begins when you pick up the iron rod. It begins when you set up the brand in the wind and rebuild it when it falls down. And most importantly, it begins when you fail. Because failure is a teacher when experienced in a safe environment. It is an executioner when experienced in a crisis. Now I'm going to ask you something. Don't worry, it's not just a regular like and subscribe. Write one thing in the comments. the first concrete step you will take after watching this video. Not, I will buy a ferro rod. This weekend, I will try to start a fire with a ferro rod. Not, I'll prepare a first aid kit. I'll learn how to apply a tourniquet this week. When you put something into words, it begins to become real. When the crisis comes, there will be two types of people: those who practice and those who just watch videos. Which one will you be? See you in the next video.